There's a hole in the world. That's how James Marsters chose to begin. Not "I'm sad," not "rest in peace," not any of the soft, careful phrases people usually reach for when grief is still too fresh to fully hold. James Marsters, the actor who spent years playing the cocky, dangerous vampire Spike on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, looked at the loss of his former co-star Anthony Head and said something that sounded less like a statement and more like a wound. Anthony Head has passed on from us. He was an unflaggingly kind and steady presence on the set of Buffy. He was the best actor in the cast. He was the best of us. The best of us. When you've spent years working alongside genuinely talented people, when you know exactly how good your castmates are, because you watch them work scene after scene, season after season, saying someone was the best of us is not a small thing. It is the kind of sentence you only say about someone you deeply truly believed in. This is the story of that tribute, the story of Spike and Giles, two characters who spent years sparring, insulting each other, and slowly, grudgingly becoming family on screen. And the story of what it meant when, on June 5th, 2026, the actor who played one of them had to say goodbye to the actor who played the other. On Friday, June 5th, 2026, Anthony Head's daughters Emily and Daisy announced that their father had passed away peacefully in the hospital, surrounded by family, due to complications from pneumonia. He was 72 years old. For fans of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a show that more than 2 decades after it ended still maintains one of the most devoted and emotionally invested fan bases in television history, the news landed like a physical blow. Head's character, Rupert Giles, wasn't just a supporting role on that show, he was the show's moral center, the mentor, the adult who showed up, episode after episode for a group of teenagers fighting unimaginable darkness. And almost immediately, tributes started pouring in from his former castmates. Sarah Michelle Gellar, Charisma Carpenter, David Boreanaz, Eliza Dushku, each one different, each one heartfelt. But it was James Marsters' tribute that stopped people cold. Marsters posted his statement to his official social media accounts, and within hours it had been shared, screenshotted, and quoted by thousands of fans who recognized immediately that this wasn't a polished publicist statement. This was raw. This was personal. This was a man genuinely grieving a friend. To understand why this particular tribute hit so hard, you have to understand the relationship between the two characters Marsters and Head actually played. Spike and Giles were not, on paper, supposed to like each other. Giles was the proper tweed-jacketed watcher, a man devoted to research, order, and protecting Buffy and her friends according to centuries of established tradition. Spike was a chaotic, sarcastic, occasionally murderous vampire with a leather duster and a bleached blonde haircut who spent his early seasons trying to kill the very people Giles had sworn to protect. And yet, across years of the show, something unexpected happened. The two characters developed one of the most quietly hilarious dynamics in the entire series. Adversaries who respected each other, almost despite themselves. Two very different kinds of old soul forced to occupy the same space, the same group of allies, the same impossible fight against darkness. Fans never forgot it. In the wave of tributes and comments following Head's death, one line from the show kept getting repeated again and again across social media, a moment where Spike, with his signature dismissive cruelty, mocked Giles by reducing his entire near-death experience to a single absurd sentence. Cup of tea, almost got shagged, cup of tea. It's a perfect distillation of who these two characters were to each other. Spike needling, Giles exasperated. And underneath all of it, for years, on screen, genuine, grudging respect. What fans are now realizing, reading Marsters' tribute, is that the respect wasn't just between Spike and Giles. It was between James Marsters and Anthony Head, the actual human beings standing on that set day after day for years. Let's actually sit with what Marsters wrote, because every sentence carries weight. There's a hole in the world. Not in my life, not in the cast, in the world. Marsters chose language that makes Anthony Head's absence feel cosmic, a genuine gap in the fabric of things, not just a personal loss confined to the people who knew him directly. It's the kind of sentence that only gets written about someone whose presence felt, in some way, load-bearing, someone whose absence isn't just sad, it's structurally felt. Anthony Head has passed on from us. He was an unflaggingly kind and steady presence on the set of Buffy. Two specific words do a lot of work here. Unflaggingly and steady. Not nice. Not fun to work with. Unflaggingly kind, meaning consistently, every single day, without exception, across years of grueling television production schedules, late nights, and the inevitable stress of a long-running show. And steady, the word you use about someone who was the same person on the worst day of filming as they were on the best one. That is an incredibly specific, considered thing to say about a colleague. It suggests Marsters watched him closely for years and never once saw the kindness slip. He was the best actor in the cast. He was the best of us. This is the line that's been quoted everywhere, and for good reason. Buffy the Vampire Slayer had an enormously talented ensemble. Sarah Michelle Gellar, Allison Hannigan, David Boreanaz, Charisma Carpenter, Marsters himself, who became one of the most beloved figures to come out of the entire show. For James Marsters, someone who has spent decades since Buffy continuing to act, continuing to work alongside talented people, continuing to develop his own sense of what great acting actually looks like. To single out Anthony Head, specifically as the best actor in that entire cast, is an extraordinary professional tribute. It's not sentimental inflation, it's a peer naming a peer. I was lucky to have known and learned from him. He left the world a better place for his presence. Thank you, Tony, for all you gave. And here, the tribute turns from professional respect into something more personal. Learn from him, meaning Marsters didn't just work alongside Anthony Head, he grew because of him. He left the world a better place for his presence, a sentence so simple and so enormous that it's almost impossible to say about most people. And then finally, the smallest and most human detail of all, Tony. Not Anthony, not Mr. Head. Tony, the name his closest friends and family used, the same nickname Eliza Dushku used in her own tribute. A small detail that tells you this wasn't a coworker being polite, this was a friend. There's something especially powerful about hearing this kind of grief from James Marsters specifically. Spike was, for much of the show's run, an outsider, a villain turned reluctant ally turned something closer to family, but always, in some sense, slightly apart from the rest of the group. Marsters built an entire career, post-Buffy, on the strength of how deeply he understood that character's complexity. The wounded ego underneath the swagger, the desperate need to matter to people who had every reason not to trust him. And for a character like that, for an actor who spent years playing someone caught between menace and tenderness, to describe his real-life castmate in such uncomplicated, unguarded terms says something. There was no performance in this tribute, no careful media training, just a direct, almost startlingly plain statement of loss. It also matters because of what it reveals about what working on Buffy the Vampire Slayer was actually like behind the scenes. Television sets, especially on long-running genre shows with demanding schedules, can be difficult environments. Egos clash, exhaustion sets in. Not every cast becomes a real family. But what we're hearing, not just from Marsters, but from nearly every single person who has spoken since Anthony Head's death, is a remarkably consistent picture. David Boreanaz calling him a pillar of the Buffy universe, Charisma Carpenter describing the father figure energy he brought to set, Sarah Michelle Gellar saying she felt lucky simply to have known him, and now James Marsters in the most direct language of all, calling him the best of all of them. That kind of consistency, across so many different people, over so many years removed from the show itself, tells you something true. Anthony Head wasn't just respected, he was loved. I keep coming back to that opening line. There's a hole in the world. It's such an unusual thing to say. Most tributes reach for comfort, for some sense of peace, of a life well lived, of a person now resting. Marsters' tribute doesn't try to comfort anyone, including himself. It just names the absence, honestly, directly, without trying to make it smaller than it is. And maybe that's actually the most respectful thing he could have done. Because Anthony Head, by every account from his daughters, from his castmates across two completely different decades, and two completely different shows, from a fan base that has spent 20 years quoting his lines back to each other, was someone whose presence genuinely mattered, not just professionally, personally, the kind of person whose absence leaves a shape behind. James Marsters said he was lucky to have known him and learned from him, that Anthony Head left the world a better place for his presence. If you've ever had a colleague, a mentor, a friend who made the place you worked feel warmer just by being in it, you already understand exactly what Marsters was trying to say. Thank you, Tony, for all you gave. Rest well. If this tribute moved you, share it. Tell us in the comments what Spike and Giles' dynamic meant to you, or share your own favorite Anthony Head moment. Take care of each other. I'll see you in the next one.